Hey everyone. So I was going to start streaming games a little bit ago, but then I had something come up in my feed that I wanted to look into because I've always loved the look of these custom water coolers, and I've always been a fan of that. I've never necessarily had the guts to go through with and do the custom water cooling. I normally pre-buy the water cooling, but then I was looking at the custom parts and pieces, and I realized this is something that's really driven me up the wall for a while is price gouging on these setups. So here's the problem. Um, you come in here and you look at this and you go, oh, that seems really cool. I want this particular product, or hey, I want to come in here and I'm going to go buy myself a new computer. And then all of a sudden, once you're in there, you realize that suddenly you're spending 4 or 5 grand on something, and it just drives me up the wall, the price gouging that happens in pre-built sometimes. Now this isn't all the time. This does occur from time to time where you see something, you get a really good deal, and great, you can move on and enjoy that. And part of why I wanted to bring this up is we're on the cusp of having brand new products come out. We're going to see new graphics cards here in the next couple of months, so we're seeing inventory trying to be pushed out the door to clear out old stuff, and a lot of things are going on sale right now just to make way for those new NVIDIA 30 series graphics cards and the new RDNA 2 graphics cards for AMD. And AMD's Ryzen processors that are out now, we are expected to, before the end of the year, have their next processor lineup. So they're starting to clear out some inventory and make room at the OEMs. So those are basically the products that are purchased by companies like Main Gear, Dell, and whatnot, in order to get ready for the new stuff coming in, so they can start selling those in their pre-built machines. And I'm just looking at the prices here, and it's like, okay, down here at the bottom end, things aren't too bad in regards to a price markup. Now, I already know that Main Gear is buying in bulk from an OEM and getting a reduced price to begin with. So spending a little more on a pre-built, if you don't know how to build your own computer, not a terrible thing. But what gets you is once you start getting into these custom builds or going in and tweaking the features on what you're getting. So I wanted to go in and talk about this because these things really drive me up the wall. And I'm going to go in here to the custom water build, and I get it. Like, the base price, from what it sounds like, at $14.99 sounds incredible in comparison to the $16.99 stage 1 build. That these things are pretty much the same system, but you're saving a little money if you buy the absolute base. Um, there are a few minor changes between those two, but that seems like a good deal. But here's where the problem starts coming in. You go in and you click the customize button, and you're like, okay, so great deal to start out with. Uh, and I'm scrolling down here. You get that very low end 3600 uh, processor, but hey, it's still overclockable for the most part. You can still come in here and do a lot of things. It's on a B550 board, which not the greatest, but it works well. You can still do everything you need to on a B550 board for the most part. Um, but you're like, I want better performance out of what I'm purchasing, though. So you come down here and you go, well, I want top end. I want to go in here and I want to look at getting myself a Ryzen 3950X. And here's the first step where they get you, because you go and you select that, but you're adding $718 onto your bill just for that. But and you're over here and you look at Amazon and you go, okay, well, what's the price of the Ryzen 5 3600? So again, that's uh, sorry. The Ryzen 5 3600 is the absolute base one, and that's $189.99, which isn't even offered over here. It's a 3800X. But you're looking at even just the lowest of the low, and you have a price difference where right now it's $709.99. Now this is on sale, but in comparison, the lowest of the low processor is $190 effectively, and the top is $750 if this weren't on sale. So you're really paying near more than full price with purchasing this on sale, or just a little below full price if it weren't on sale, to go up to the top end processor. They're not taking into consideration the price difference of those different cards. So sorry, you can get the 3600 on this. I apologize. You can get the 3600. So you can get the lowest of low, but you don't get that price savings by choosing to go to a higher card. You're not getting this at a price of basically $520 extra to upgrade. They are charging you the full cost probably of what it costs them to get that processor. So there's no cost savings. They're price gouging you right from the get-go. And that really drives me up the wall, because if I wanted to go in and upgrade this myself, I could buy the base machine and later on come in and purchase the upgrade for less than what they're offering it and stick it in myself. Now, not everyone's comfortable with doing that, and I understand, but it's just one of those things where processors are typically easy to swap out. Now, maybe this is a little more difficult because of the custom water cooling system, but I'm going to get into that information here a little bit later. So already we see that they're jumping and price gouging us for over $500 additional in this build. And then we get down to the graphics, and they start out with an RX 5500 XT from AMD. So this is very base graphics card. It works well. You can go over to like 1650 in some of these and save some money, but we're going to look here at the 5500 XT. And so when you look at the 5500 XT, you can find that for about $200 is what we're seeing here. You know, it has some variants. You can get it for as little as 185 over on, or sorry, 180 over on Amazon, or you can bump it all the way up to 210. And, you know, different cooling solutions do make a difference on these cards, but let's just say you're getting them for about $200 right now. But then you come here and you see that the NVIDIA Titan RTX is $2,933. Well, the Titan is only $2,500, and you can still get it on sale from time to time for closer to $2,000. It is out of stock right now. It will be back in stock, but this is top of the line. This is professional and gamer grade quality card. So they're already hitting you up for an extra $433 just on this graphics card to bump that up. So you're looking at that and going, why? Where's all this extra expense coming in? It's crazy, because this base price up here already has the water cooling in here. It's already the custom main gear turbo. The water cooling is already built into this pre-built price. And they've decided, well, this is water cooled, so we're going to go ahead and charge you the card plus. And I don't know if they're doing that just because there's extra money involved for the cooling, which is possible, but is the price difference between the water block for the Titan and the water block for the 5500 XT $400 difference for them to build? And I'm going to say no. Now, they may not produce as many of them, so that does up the cost. But when you're talking about manufacturing cost differences for these types of things, if assuming that the water block is even different for the connection setup, you're talking a few dollars at most typically. You know, maybe give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's an extra $50 in order to produce the water block for the Titan. That is still an egregious price increase for the overall build of this. And typically, gaming cards don't require water cooling, and you can buy water cooled cards already. I don't know if it's available in the Titan, but I do know that with the 2080 Ti, so the one that they charge an extra $1,226 for $1,500 you can get a water cooled one not on sale for the high end. And then there are other ones that are available for oftentimes somewhere around that $1,200 price, because that's the price of the 2080 Ti that you can get with water cooling, but they don't have the performance boost built into it. So if you want the performance boost, you have to go and do that yourself. But again, just being price gouged here, because they're not cutting off the extra 200 to go to a 2080 Ti. They're charging you the full price of a 2080 Ti, and they're not cutting off any price for the Titan. They're increasing your price. So again, just little things that drive me up the wall, where if you don't pay attention to what's going on, if you don't look at the market, you're probably getting price gouged somewhere. So just, yeah, you got to pay attention to these little things. So again, okay, now I have this really awesome thing, but all of a sudden I'm up to $5,146 for this build. So based on just these two items, because they're not cutting out a price difference, we're looking at about $500 of overpayment versus what you could go and buy and put in your system on your own. And then, uh, well, and here's the funny thing: they advertise this as cooling, but apparently you get down here and they're tricking you into believing that you are getting this machine. And I just caught this now myself, because I thought I was getting that cooling as well for this specialized cooling. No, you're not. That specialized cooling, your water cooling, is either the 2-fan plug-in, or the Apex cooling will cost you another $1,149. So now we're at $6,295 for a top of the line system for a water cooling setup. And the reality of it is now you know that they're price gouging you on your Titan. You're not even getting the water cooling with that Titan. They are just outright overcharging you for a product. And then it gets even worse. So you have the Apex liquid cooling turbo. Then you can add colors for free, which is fine. Adding colors to your setup is pretty cheap, so they throw that in for free, like you're gonna get, like they're tossing you a bone, even though they're charging you over $1,000 for the custom water cooling system. So that's already built into this coolant color. So yeah, you scroll down here, and then it gives you your base lines. So this is just hard line clear, so you can see the liquid moving through it. But we're not even talking about going in and getting additional hardline piping pieces. So now all of a sudden they're bumping you up $200 to go to chrome, or $500 to go to black and gold. I'm going to tell you now, that's not real gold. If it is real gold, then it's probably too cheap. These two products are pretty much the exact same product. The only difference is the coloring. And if you go to your local store to purchase, that coloring is probably the exact same price, or might have a small bump up in price for that. So let's go ahead and do a search. Let's look at Apex Hardline. So we get in here to Apex Hardline, and for the tubing and connections, and we can see, oh, well, sorry, that's a professional site. Apex should be available from, let's say, let's go to Micro Center. And I'm just going to copy and paste the Apex Hardline. And Main Gear's little cooling system there. Okay, so they don't have it. Maybe this is OEM only. Let's go ahead and give this a try for something else. Apex Hardline, Amazon. Oh, nope, that's the game. Legends. Alright. So I'm not actually finding those individual pieces, but I'll tell you now that you can find something similar to whatever this Apex Hardline is from another company. This might be rebranded for them. Um, there's information on it from Tom's Hardware and whatnot, but you can find other solutions, and it's entirely possible that you can get it. You're probably going to get your entire cooling solution for less than $1,000. I know that if you go to Micro Center and go through there, they have a base pre-built at $150, but that doesn't include, I don't believe that's custom. Once you get into custom, you're looking at, for the install, between $250 and $300 most likely, which is fine. But then you can buy the base kits, so you can get Hardline or something else. Those base kits cost between $150 and $350. And then you can upgrade your fittings and purchase those nice metal fittings, and maybe you stack on an extra $200 to that. So even looking at the top end, we're talking around $500 for the kit and another $300 for the build. So right there, $450 savings effectively for this. So once again, watch what you're doing. Call up your local store and talk with them. So I've looked at the pre-build water-cooled systems. I've looked at having Main Gear build mine, and I've had it priced out. And for me, the hard water cooling and having them build it for an extra $700 wasn't worth it to me. Because unless you're extreme overclocking, which I do some overclocking, but I'm not into the extreme systems. I like my systems to be cool and run well, and overall the performance gains that you get for that extra $700 to $800 is just not worth it. But if you love and want that color look, you can get that through here for far less. And then you continue on down, and we get into the motherboards, and again, you're not saving any money on the motherboards. It's not nearly the price increase that you see with other things, but again, they're not subtracting the cost out for you. You're not going to go and suddenly save the $75 from purchasing the B550M, which I believe the B550M, B550M is $130 setup, and the ASUS is $276. So they've bumped up the price a little bit. It's not a huge bump, but there is a bump. I couldn't find it on Amazon, so my comparison has to be Newegg. But again, if you do shopping around, you might find this on sale. You might get a better price. So once again, just be careful, watch what you're paying for. Now, in this instance, I'm not too concerned about it, because if you don't want to build your own computer and they're only marking you up $30, not a huge deal. But when you get into the hundreds of dollars for a markup, even more than the $30 for the board difference, and once again, we're talking a markup that is happening on products that are on the verge of being replaced here in the next few months. So they're not discounting any of this for you. And then we go down to memory. And again, they're not going to save you any money on this overall. So 8 gigs of HyperX Fury DDR4 3200. So we come over here, and on Fury's website, the 8 gigs, so it's a kit of 2, so 16 total, $85. That's what we're looking at. So 16 2x8. But then they also offer the HyperX Predator DDR4 3600 megahertz, and they charge you an extra $426 to get 64 gigs and add in for 2 by 32 gigabit. You want to know how much you're actually spending for that? If you go and buy this yourself, so we're talking the Fury, we're talking the 3600 megahertz, and you come in kit of 2, jump that up to the 3600 megahertz, $351.99. Again, they're charging you a premium of about $70 just so that they can stick the stick in the little slot. The easiest thing for you to personally upgrade on your own. So, again, if you are buying a pre-built computer, fine. There are plenty of great upgrades you can make yourself that are simple. The graphics card is simple to upgrade. If you can choose, don't get a graphics card in your computer. Get the base build up and spend the money on that, and then invest in the graphics card separately. As long as you know you have the processor and the motherboard you want, you can save a ton of money by simply going to your local store, going to Amazon, hitting up Newegg, and popping in your own RAM and your own graphics card. And it's very unlikely that you're going to break anything with one of these things because they just pop in the slot. Now, there is a concern that they may not put in the power supply that you need for that type of build. They may look at that and go, well, you only have a processor in there. If you're buying Ryzen, you have to have a discrete processor, so they may not even let you purchase it as a pre-built without one. But even still, if you're getting that base graphics card and then sticking in your own, remember, you can easily just swap that out. Just pay attention to what the power supply is, because as long as the power supply is anywhere between 500 and 650 watts, in most cases for current generation, that's great. Now, once we get into next generation computers, that's going to change. We're going to have issues with things such as power supply specs going up. Right now, the rumor is believed that we're going to see 800 watt power supplies recommended for the top tier NVIDIA graphics cards, and that's fine. But we're not at that point yet, and we're just looking at this. So always check, always look into what's going on. Make sure you're getting the best deal for what you're investing in, because the reality of it is RAM is not affected by your power supply for the most part. You can purchase this higher end for $351 and save yourself $70 right there off the top. So these are the kinds of things I have issues with. And if you go to Micro Center and you want that hard water cooling, again, I've talked about it. You can come over to Micro Center and they'll do it for you starting about $150, and that is without the custom water cooling. It then bumps up to about $250 to $300 depending upon how complicated the water cooling setup is, and you do still have to buy those products separately. But again, you can purchase a kit, and those kits run between $150 and $350, and then you can expand upon those kits to additional things, or you can completely buy individually for all the parts you need, and the person at Micro Center will help you out with that and save you a ton of money. And if you don't have a Micro Center, check out your other stores. You never know what your local gaming store will offer. So Best Buy is happy to help with some build setup things. The Geek Squad, while their prices over there are not going to get you a discount with anything, you can't go there and bring things in for them to install. Where Micro Center, on the other hand, I have found it depends upon who you talk to, but the salesperson will tell you, no, we'll only install things that you've purchased here. But if you go over to their tech center and bring parts in and say, hey, I need help with my computer, they'll be happy to charge you to put the thing together oftentimes. The person over at that counter, not always. Depends upon if you get the manager or not. The manager might be a little more reluctant, and sometimes the manager doesn't care, but he may charge you a little bit more for not using their parts and products. Depending upon the deals you get, that may or may not be a bad thing. But overall, if you want the best bang for your buck, even if you buy a pre-built, buy the low end and build up from there in most cases, or shop the parts, make sure that they're not price gouging you. Now if they have a little bit of a markup on those parts, they charge you an extra $30 for something, not a big deal, but do your due diligence. If you want help, send a setup to me and I will look into what I can do for you to for pricing, because I'm happy to look into that. I'll do a stream on it and we'll go over your PC build and see what we can do to either just get you something that you can upgrade from there, or even just take the time to build yourself if you want to learn. Most motherboards come with an instruction manual that walk you through that whole process. Or even do something where you go hit up Linus and watch some of his videos, and he does a lot of PC builds on there, and you can learn how to build these things. He'll even teach you how to do custom water cooling. Again, it's one of those things that I would ask your friends, find out if you knew someone who already does that and work with them and do it in person. Um, because it's a scary prospect pumping water into one of these systems and risking it leaking onto your parts, and all of a sudden it's damaged and you're out a whole bunch of money. But you go through someone like Micro Center where everything's purchased through them, they build it. If they break something, they cover the cost and replace it. It's not your fault. It falls on them in that case. So yeah, just do your due diligence is what I'm saying with all of this. So again, you get in here, and so now we've overspent by nearly $700-800. So I'm going to do a quick rundown on this and we'll look at this again. So up here on the processor, we're being bumped out of about $200. Then on the graphics card, it's another $433. So right there, we're at about $600. Then for their custom cooling solution, they're charging $1,100. $1,150, when you can probably go purchase these parts and go to Micro Center or a local place to have them build this for you. You're probably only going to get charged somewhere between $700 and $800 between the parts and the actual time to have it built. So right there, we're looking at another, let's just say $300. We'll go high, say $850, and we'll say $300 for that build right there. So that puts us at $900. And then we have another $70 on. We have another $70 going from memory. So nearly $1,000 already, just shy of $1,000. On the motherboard, we're about $30 difference there. So like I said, that one isn't a huge deal because that's a slight markup, and the company needs to make some money. The margins on these things are oftentimes pretty thin to begin with. So a $30 markup doesn't bother me, but we're looking at about $1,000 once you include that in. And then you get into the memory, and again, this is another one of those things where it varies greatly. So they're offering, what, if you know about it, the Intel memory is oftentimes some of the worst memory because it has one of the worst endurances overall. Its rewrite capability is among the lowest. Getting into your Samsung ones, this is where you're going to start to see this to be viable. But here's the issue that I have here. They're talking about 2 terabytes at $512 on 3.0. Keep in mind, we're already $1,000 over the base price for building this stuff. So if we go over here and we take a look, and let's just find out what we can get the Samsung Evo Plus at 2 terabytes for. And you're going to be surprised. So we'll hit up Amazon really quick, and right there, the 2 terabytes, $367. Micro Center is bumping you up to $512. More money than going and getting a Gen 4 M.2 NVMe. Now, the Gen 4 are significantly faster than what the Samsung one is. So for 2 terabytes from Seagate, you can get significantly faster Gen 4 PCI Express memory from them for less than what you can get Samsung, just because Samsung is known for the quality. So seriously, $200? Okay, closer to 150. So we'll leave it at 1,150 effectively for that. It used to be a $500 piece, but it's gone down in price because Gen 4 is coming out. So this says sale price. I expect it to stay around this price because the memory costs are coming down unless we have shortages or something occur again. I don't expect that price to go back up to normal retail because they now have to compete with these things. And this is where Samsung is going to be going next as well, is into these NVMe Gen 4 processes. And they want that to come up and step into that $500 price range. So, right at $1,150 right now, you getting really screwed in these prices. Now, you go and you can get some off-brand stuff. You can go to like Micro Center and get Inland, and you can buy terabyte. I believe costs you $100. So for you can probably, I don't know if they make a 2 terabyte, but for $100 you can get a terabyte there, and that for better memory than what these things are. And it's not $320 for 1 terabyte. It's nearly the equivalent of what the Samsung is. In some cases it shows better, in some cases it shows worse in overall listing, but you can take that with a grain of salt. But so far, from what I've seen, those do pretty well and they're a good deal. But yeah, for 1 terabyte is what they're charging for the cost, for nearly the cost of 2 terabytes if you come over onto Amazon and purchase yours. So again, be careful on what you're purchasing, because really, $1,150 at this point, and we're not even done getting through all of this. They offer a second chip that you can put in, getting into additional hard drives. Now, the additional ones probably are closer to what the actual price is for what they're selling than other things, because they're not as popular. They're used as secondary storage now. But at the end of the day, you're probably still going to see a markup on this from them. And then we come down here to power supply, and they're providing a 750 watt power supply in this one. So not bad. It's platinum rated, so it's pretty high end. No issue with that. You can't choose anything else other than this. That's fine. Whatever. Special braided cables and whatnot. But for the most part, you don't see these things. Cable management for a custom builder is important, but cable management is all done in the back of the case. So most cases now have hidden panels to put your wiring through, so you see very little of the actual wiring that happens in your case. So if you're spending $100 for custom wiring that's not going to be seen, don't bother. Yeah, there are very few cases where this would matter anymore. And if you're buying such a cheap case that you don't have that hidden back panel in there for it, you're probably not worried as much about spending $100 on custom specialized cables. Comes with Windows 10, so that is a $100 investment right there. So out of that $1,150, you can kind of take $100 off if you want because of it. Of course, it's also possible to get this free in some cases, because Windows 10 will oftentimes still let you download the drivers from the website and install it, and then you'll have an unofficial copy, and you won't be able to do some of the things because it's going to want you to pay the $100 to do certain features that are more cosmetic in it. But yeah, just one of those things. But that ideally should already be built into that base $1,500 that you're paying for this case. So then it gets into modders and other things, and this is a whole other area where if you want these things, go for it, but check and see what the prices are again. But like the Siren X ad for $96. Right here, this is one of the worst rated plug and play microphones you can get. It is constantly on sale everywhere for $80, sometimes less. So, you get what you pay for. Um, yeah, just a lot of these things are still overpriced, oftentimes on sale because they've been out for a while. You can just get a better deal on them. But really, what we're looking at right now is overall, you're being overcharged by approximately $1,150 before tax. And then you're going to get overcharged on tax because you're going to get taxed on that extra $1,150. So you're probably looking at close to, depending upon where you live, anywhere from $50 to $100 additional in tax on that $1,000, maybe even up to $150 extra in tax. So you could be looking at an extra $1,300 in total if you have like a 10% tax rate in your location. If you're one of the cheaper tax areas, I believe the cheapest tax I've heard of is 5%, and I don't know if you can still find a place that's actually that low, but I believe that's the cheapest tax percent that I've heard of. Maybe you live in an area that has even less, but yeah, it really is a shame that a company goes and does this to the people who want to spend money, want to invest, want to get these higher end things, and then they charge a premium on top of price gouging for their parts. So pay attention. Really, just, and like I said, if you have questions, concerns, you want to learn about a product, find out if there's a better way of going about it, I will happily go in and do some research for you. If you send me a message and say, hey, I'm looking at this, I want to make sure I'm getting the best bang for my buck, let me know what there is that I could potentially do to save some money in my area. Even the small computer building businesses that will go in and custom build things for you. Sometimes they're overpriced, and they're not going in there and charging you an extra 400 some odd dollars for a graphics card. They're charging you the 400, they're going to charge you the price of the graphics card and then labor time, and they'll have an estimated labor for the entire product. So overall, you won't be spending nearly this much in most cases. Again, contact them, get an estimate. Don't I have seen a few of those computer shops where the labor hours are extreme. You look at that and you go, you're going to charge me 50 hours to build a computer. That's ridiculous. In most cases, a base build for a computer probably only takes up to 3 hours, depending upon who's doing it. Find out their rate per hour. They could have a flat rate that's available for things. Some places they might charge you $20 an hour of labor. Other places they may charge you $60 an hour for labor, depending upon where you live. And that's just, unfortunately, that's the nature of the game. Where you live is going to affect those prices overall. And you get into custom cooling and things like that, you can't expect those prices to go up. I would say that at some of those custom shops, you may see $1,000 in labor for a custom water cooled system. I think so. Still potentially less than this, but it's tricky. You'll have to call around. There's going to be more than one in your area, more than likely, unless you kind of live out in the middle of nowhere. Then you may not have a choice in the matter, but. I know in the small town that I lived in, there had always been a computer shop that did custom builds and things, and their prices were a little high for me to look at. And it was something that I could do myself, so there was no way I was going to pay those extra prices. But for someone who doesn't know what they're doing, I could see them going in and doing that. So, yeah, just don't get the premium charge. Look into it, investigate what's going on, make sure that that there is going to be some markup on these. And if you go in and buy a pre-built and you spend an extra $150, on a pre-built system than what it would cost for you to do on your own, I don't have an issue with that. That's them making money for the labor costs for that investment. But once you get into five, six, $7,000 plus premium prices, at that point I question. I go, what am I getting out of this? What savings am I seeing from this? Versus going down, buying a cheaper machine, and simply investing my extra capital into upgrading the simple things on my own, upgrading the graphics card on my own, because it's literally maybe two screws and a little push button that you push to pop it out, and then you pop your next one in and screw those in, and you do a driver update. You may probably want to download the drivers but before you swap the graphics card so it'll work right away. And then RAM. RAM is literally just you push the little button, it pops it out, and then you reset it in there and push it in where the prior RAM was going, and voila, you're updated, you're set up to be able to go ahead and game, and you've saved yourself a couple of $100 right there. So yeah, if you have any questions, like I said, hit me up on here, shoot me a message on Twitter as the Gray Falcon over there. I think I'm going to also upload this on YouTube, so leave a comment down below if you have questions about that. It's just, yeah, pay attention to what you're investing in. I can't say it enough. Pay attention to what you're investing in. Pay attention to what you're investing in, because at the end of the day, you could save so much money for things that take 2 seconds of effort. Or by going to another resource to get these types of things. I bet you it won't be long before this case, because Maingear is a company that sells their cases individually. You can go and find these cases. Oftentimes these cases are simply rebranded cases from another company, and you can go and purchase that from Newegg or walk into Micro Center. They'll often times have that exact same case, but it will have the original company branding on there. Very rarely does Maingear show a case that is exclusive to them entirely. It normally just has the branding redone on the front of it to have their little Maingear marker. And this is true of a lot of these companies like Cyber Power and I can't think of another at the moment. It's like iBuyPC or something like that. Dell, on the other hand, they do produce and make their own custom cases. HP has some of those. Some of the bigger main companies like that do have a lot more of their custom cases, so it's harder to buy something like that, or you have to buy it third-party market to get that case from an older case that's still being used. But overall, even on Dell, though, like Dell, will go in there, they'll price gouge sometimes, but if you go through their pricing, you'll find that they oftentimes have specials and price discounts that drive those things down. So pay attention to that as well. If you're going to buy a pre-built from a company, look for those sales and specials. Look for those special codes that they put out there, because they'll oftentimes say, if you spend this much, we're going to automatically knock off the extra $200 for this. And that's great. So go ahead, get the primary things that you need in there. Make sure you have the power supply that you need for that build, and then oftentimes you can save that $200 and still go in and save money by purchasing your own graphics card separately, taking whatever the base layer graphics card that they're offering in there and upgrade. Now, Dell does sometimes put their graphics cards where you get that price difference, but they oftentimes do the same thing that happens here, where the price difference between upgrading from one graphics card to another graphics card is the total price of that higher end graphics card. It's not any actual savings and cost difference between those two. So yeah, careful what you pay for. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to go ahead and edit this and get it up on YouTube. And then I'm going to come back on and do some gaming like I promised I was going to do earlier. But yeah, like I said, I couldn't let this pass. Seeing this pop up on Twitter and making it seem like you're getting more than what you really are, I just get so sick and tired of seeing that, and I don't want customers to get screwed out of their pricing anymore. All right, I'm Gray Falcon. Remember to click the follow button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're over on YouTube, and follow me over on Twitter. Have a good one.